YouTube celebrities are laughing along with their fans all the way to the bank.
This kid, Ryan, who earned $22 million this year.
They want growth. Everything's about growth.
Go hit that like button.
They are obligated to maximize shareholder value.
That is a clip from the new documentary, The YouTube Effect. You can quickly forget that YouTube was once a startup. It was acquired by Google in 2006 for $1.65 billion. Today, YouTube generates roughly that amount of revenue every 3 weeks. And along with being a big business, it has also opened the door to some big societal questions. The YouTube Effect is directed by Alex Winter, whose past documentaries have explored tech's impact on society, from Napster to the deep web. And Alex Winter joins us now. Alex, great to see you again. Thanks for the time.
Thank you. Always good to see you, John.
Let's just talk about the process of deciding to make this film. When did you start getting the itch to sort of explore the wide world of YouTube?
I think I really got involved in examining Google and YouTube after the 2016 election, when the world went somewhat crazy and has probably still yet to recover. And as you know, I've worked on several. This is my fourth film in the tech sector, feature documentary. So I've been tracking the rise of online communities going back to the mid-'80s. And YouTube is by far the largest online community on the planet. Google is the #1 most viewed website. YouTube is the #2 most viewed website on the planet, and both are owned by the same company. So it seemed high time to look at them. Gail Ann Hurd, the producer, came to me and asked me if I'd collaborate on this with her. And it felt like post, that election and what we were about to head into with 2020, it felt like the right time. Little did I know I'd be making a pandemic movie as well.
Yeah, no doubt. And Alex, I think, we in business television, we often talk about business models. I think the evolution of YouTube has played out as such, in part because it is based on advertising and it is based on views and how many views. What did you find in making the film about that business model?
It's really interesting to come at it this way, because I'd say the biggest revelation I had working on it, in terms of my own understanding of the growth of the net, which was pretty thorough, and I've been in this space a long time, was that there was a narrative that's been pushed forward, I'd say largely by the tech companies, that all of these issues are largely algorithmic. Meaning there's some kind of like magic box computer code that's just driving all this stuff on its own, like HAL in 2001, and no one has any control over it. When the truth is that these are purely business model issues, that when you combine a very old business model, which is what YouTube runs on, an ad-based model that goes back to, precedes the newspaper era, much less radio and television. When you combine that with the amount of scale that YouTube has, which is unprecedented, 4.6 billion views a day minimum, and then you combine that with a visual medium, which is a kind of a parasocial relationship between the viewer and the end user, or the creator and the end user, that is unprecedented power, and it's done a lot of good. It has created and continues to create a lot of very important content, but because it's so big, the harms are also significant.
And I would imagine with artificial intelligence now on our doorstep, it's a helpful moment actually to talk about the way this business works.
I think it's an extremely important inflection point that we're at. It's the same inflection point that my industry is at, which is why we're striking right now across SAG and the WGA, as I think most of the world is aware. And it's a labor crisis that everyone is involved in, not just the entertainment industry. And AI is absolutely going to make that labor crisis work. And I would argue, again, not because of some magic box computer code, but because of business models, because of what business interests are going to do with these technologies. And when you shackle AI to an algorithm and you have a business model behind that that is profit-driven at all costs, that can wreak havoc both on the public and on the labor force.
It's you got access to the people who know, the people who helped to build this business in its early days, people who have played a key role in growing the business to where it is now, and also people who started to build careers around YouTube. And I thought that part was interesting as well, because this has in many ways become the new Hollywood, the opportunity to be an online creator, an influencer, and YouTube carries so much weight that when you can have success on that platform, oftentimes you can, in your pocket of the internet, rule essentially the internet. But what did you learn from speaking to creators?
A lot of things, a lot of which were good things. YouTube has been seminal in the space of creating a monetizable future or career for people on the internet. I don't think there were too many ways to do it before them, and they did it with a great deal of intent, and I would say largely an ethical and equitable way forward. There have been mistakes, there's been issues, there's been back and forth, but I would credit YouTube with doing a pretty extraordinary job of building a massive, like almost unthinkably massive ecosystem for creators that has grown, to what it is today, and it's still monetizable today. So, Hollywood started to perk up years ago, and today most of the influencers on YouTube have far more reach than any Hollywood star or even Hollywood conglomerate, bigger than a Viacom or a Comcast or a lot of the huge Warner Discovery. This is just a massive company, so it has enormous influence in that way. And a lot of what they've done with the creators is good. I think as Ryan, his parents from Ryan's Toys speak very intelligently in the film, there has yet to be, I would say, commensurate regulation or standards and practices that follow that level of scale. That is an issue for the creators, I would argue, much less for the sort of more politically oriented or propagandistic or sensationally oriented content, which is a very big problem.
Well, you're always so extremely good at identifying these issues on things that just become commonplace in our life. And Alex, it's a great film. Thanks very much for your time. We appreciate it, as always.
Yeah, John, it's great to be here. Always happy to come back. Thank you.
Alex Winter, director of The YouTube Effect, which is now streaming.
Montreal-based Stingray Group is one of the world's largest distributors of music in a bunch of different ways. It's a music broadcaster on TV channels. It provides music for retailers like Loblaw and Walmart. It owns conventional radio stations and subscription products. Now, the company just reported a set of quarterly results that missed expectations as revenue growth slowed to around 1% on an advertising slump. But the CEO says they're still going to hit their growth targets for the year. For more, we're joined by Eric Boyko, who's the co-founder and CEO of Stingray. Eric, thank you so much for joining us. Give us a sense of, you have so many different business lines, all music, obviously, but they move with different economic factors. Which one is kind of firing on all cylinders right now?
So, first of all, thank you very much for inviting us today. We really appreciate it. I think it's a good point. We do ads in the store. So imagine a radio station, but it's in the stores. A lot of our advertisers are pharmaceutical and large companies, and depending on which quarter they invest, it's a question of timing. So a lot of our advertisers that usually come in the first quarter decide to come in the second quarter. So the second quarter, we told the market today, we're already up 50% compared to last year. So it's really a timing issue. But for us, the most exciting is, music in stores as, what we call the good old elevator music, very boring. But every store has music. Now we're able to add ads in that market, and that could represent up to $1,000 of revenues per location per month. So we turn music, which is a cost center, into a revenue center that we're able to share with Loblaws, Metro, Jean Coutu, Walmart, and we're doing this around the world, and we're the dominant player. So that growth last year we did about 30 million. This year we'll do 50 million. And we believe in the next 12 to 18 months, we'll be able to achieve 100 million of sales. So very fast growth in that market. Our biggest issue is evangelizing the market of the agencies to do ads in stores.
Okay, so that's really interesting. I mean, I sit as part of a media organization, and I've watched other media organizations complain about this so-called ad recession, about all these dollars being sucked up by Google or Amazon or Meta. You're talking about ad growth at a time that this is happening. How are you able to buck the trend? What's the value proposition that these advertisers are seeing?
And so, the retail advertising, it's a big market. It's growing from 16 billion to 26 billion in 2025. So every big retailer, Loblaws Media, Walmart Media, they're getting involved, and you're going to see a lot more ads in the store while you shop. So the goal is to say an ad from Ziploc. So Ziploc says, you waste 20% of your food. Stop by Ziploc and get yourself some Ziploc to save food money. So there's nothing a better place than to do ads in the store, and that market is growing by 50% because technology is permitting it. And every retailer now is open to start promoting in their stores, which they weren't maybe 10 years ago.
And is this kind of agnostic to or resilient in the face of an economic slowdown?
I think so. For us, it has nothing to do with the economic slowdown. It has to do about evangelizing the market because agencies and whatever are used to radio, TV, out of home. Now it's in-store media, so they're not used to it. So it's really about evangelizing the market because the audio ads on Spotify are close to 200 million a year. We're not getting that. So it's getting that ads from Spotify and the other markets to come in stores. So, and it's an audio ad, so it's very unique. So I think we're not cyclical in this nature.
What's happening on the content side? Are prices going up?
Oh, sorry?
On the content side, are you having to pay up more to provide this content, or has that been kind of stable?
Yeah, so the beauty about content, the beauty of our business as a distributor, most of our rights are mandatory or decided by SACA or by Sound Exchange or PRS in England or all the different agencies in the world. So our rights are a percentage of revenues. That's the beauty about music because we're not on demand. So those rights are given us and voted for many years. So they're renewed, and usually we renew them at a lower rate. So we're lucky to be in the business model that is very long-term cash flow, long-term rights management. So we don't negotiate with the labels. We do a deal with what we call the copyright board. And one of the issues with Stingray is music's complicated, but that's where we make money. If it was easy, everybody would do it.
That is very true. One of the things that I wonder about is you have these big kind of growth targets that you are looking for. Do you expect to achieve those organically, or are you expecting to do some deals to get you there?
Right now, we're with the deal we did with the retail network, we're sitting with about almost 800 million of inventory and we're only selling 50 million. So right now our goal is to evangelize the market and sell this inventory, just like we do with radio, make sure that we're able to sell all of our ads. So that's our number one focus. We're always ready for targets. Our debt EBITDA is at 3.2. We told the market we want to be well below 3 at the end of the year. So our goal is to target around 2.75. So right now we're much more in a mode of repaying debt. And I'd say our new target will be closer to 2.5. We used to say 3. But with the new world, I'm an accountant, so I would prefer being around 2.5, and then we could look for a major acquisition.
So you're in these markets that are high growth, perhaps resilient in an economic slowdown, except you've also got radio stations. And that seems to be kind of the biggest pain point right now in the business. How do you see that unfolding? And do you see a future where maybe you don't need the radio stations?
So that's a good question, and we do get asked that a lot. So this year we'll generate roughly 80 million on the broadcast side, and we'll generate about 40 million on the radio side. I'm giving you rough numbers. So we're still about 2/3, 70% broadcast, 30% radio. When we first did the radio deal, we were 50-50. So radio is getting to be a smaller business. Radio is an incredible cash flow, 45 million of free cash flow. Radio is what fuels the rest of the engine. And we're also using the radio. We have over 150 colleagues in radio that sell ads. So the ads they sell on radio, they also help us sell the ads on the retail media side. So no, we're still in Canada. The way we're structured, I think we're one of the best team. Strong cash flow, 40% EBITDA margin, almost 40% cash flow, and we're in small markets. We don't have local newspapers. There's less competition coming in. Some of our peers announced that they're closing radio stations, and some of our peers are announcing that they want to sell radio stations. So it puts us in a good position to be a dominant player here in Canada. But I agree. If you ask me, should we have done radio 5 years ago, we could have a coffee and discuss about it.
All right, Eric. Maybe we will one day. Thank you so much for joining me with that perspective. That's Eric Boyko, co-founder and CEO of Stingray.
Well, there is a big story in Canada right now surrounding Taylor Swift tickets. The superstar is coming to Toronto, but it's still more than a year away. And you might have heard about some frustrated fans unable to even get into the queue. Some receiving messages from Ticketmaster notifying fans they're on a wait list for a chance to buy these tickets, but even struggling to get their orders in. We should note there's not a lot of hard data being shared publicly about just how many were trying to get tickets. That was made worse by the fact that there's an abundance of speculation around those figures. But we do know the math here. There's roughly 50,000 seats at the Rogers Centre, where Swift is set to perform next year, and 6 concerts. And so you do the math, that means 300,000 tickets up for grabs. And at the end of the day, this has been one of the hottest acts on the planet so far this year. Actually, to put that into additional context, it has been so hot that it has single-handedly impacted the 2023 performance for a well-known ticket marketplace, Vivid, where highly sought-after resale tickets can be found. Let's bring in Stan Cheese, the Chief Executive Officer at Vivid Seats, joining us now from Boston. And Stan, I know you just had earnings, and I do want to get a sense on what's happening with your business, but Canada's obsessed with these Taylor tickets. We don't have any firm specifics on what the demand has been like. Have you heard anything?
Hey, John, thanks for having me on the show. Look, I think as we saw throughout the entirety of the tour, she is just a phenomenal artist, has a phenomenal fan base, and we continue to see an environment where there's just a lot more demand than there is supply.
You know, I want to talk a little bit about how your business works in a second, but a lot of people are keying in on Ticketmaster's role in getting the process started. Ticketmaster itself was already caught up in what some call the ticketing fiasco. Some thought that had been resolved. And I wonder if there's a concern in the industry when fans start to feel frustrated so quickly when they try to buy tickets and maybe struggle out the gate.
Yeah, look, I think it's a great time for live events because so many people enjoy going to them. And when I think about our role in particular as a marketplace where we're able to connect buyers and sellers, you're going to have instances where there's hyper demand. And when you see that, you're going to see slightly higher prices because the price or the demand exceeds the supply. On the flip side, I think there's a lot of benefit, on the events that maybe people don't talk about as much. And when we look at the marketplace in totality, more than 50% of the listings really go for under face value. So I think it really works both ways, and consumers overall benefit. There's just a lot of talk when it's a hyper demand event.
Yeah, fair context, and maybe you can talk about when it is a hot act like Taylor Swift. How fast does it take for tickets to hit your platform? I assume a lot of the demand, would come from people who maybe are seeing a financial opportunity here to be first in line to get those tickets and then maybe come to your platform. Like, how does that work?
Yeah, I think so for us, again, I look at us as we provide a platform for discovery for consumers, and we're the only platform on that side that offers a rewards program for them as well. For sellers, we provide a platform where they are able to then meet that demand and hopefully a transaction happens. In terms of pace to get up there, I think it's a free market, and a free market's great. So I think when there's inventory that's available with a willing seller, that shows up on our marketplace. And in general, there's usually supply for every event that's available in the space.
And I think because there's, a lot of anecdotal commentary flying around, maybe you can set the record straight for us. When you've got tickets that are making their way to a platform like Vivid, is this an individual, maybe somebody who might be an average Taylor Swift fan, or behind the scenes, are there operations fueled by, let's say, bots that can gobble up tickets very quickly using technology and then take them to your platform? How does that all work?
Yeah, look, I'd start with, bots are illegal, and we think that should, be enforced and continue to be prevented. But in general, when we look at sellers on the platform, I think you have every type of seller, from fans to not so big fans to big fans, who are looking and they see an opportunity and they love to participate in the market, and that's who comes to the platform and ultimately allows the consumer who wants to go to the event to find one at a price point that they are willing to purchase at.
Okay, well, a story like this definitely sheds some light on a business like yours, a growing business like yours as well. Maybe you can walk us through, along with connecting buyers and sellers, how the rest of the business works. You guys generate fees. Maybe you could tell us a little bit more about the business model.
Yeah, sure. So I think, we operate no different than any marketplace business where we have, consumers that come to the platform to buy. We have sellers that come to the platform to sell. And as the sellers come in, they set the price that they'd like to sell the tickets at. We charge a fee to the buyers when they look to purchase the tickets from us. And with that fee, we look to invest that and reinvest that into things that are also wonderful for consumers. We have the only loyalty program that's out there with a buy 10, get one free ticket program. We invest greatly in our customer service. We've been recognized multiple years for best customer service and ticketing. So our model really is one where it's a marketplace where people come to list. And for the fee that we charge, we look to provide great discovery value, great economic value, and great experiential value for fans.
Well, nearly 2/3 of the analysts who cover your company have a buy rating on your stock, so perhaps that's a hedge if people are worried about what they have to pay for concert tickets on your platform. If they own your stock, that might pay dividends over the longer term. I mean, in terms of the longer term, outside of what's happening today, what are some of the key priorities? What do you think is going to drive your business into tomorrow?
Yeah, look, I think if you look at the quarter we just had, and it's a testament to the strength of the industry, the strength of our team. We came in $954 million on the GOV side, delivering $31 million on the EBITDA line and beating the street, expectations, 20% on the top, 27% on the bottom. So just great performance by the team. If you look at the industry, we're excited about the industry. There's great tailwinds now. You see artists wanting to tour more and more. You see consumers really wanting to go out there and enjoy it and prioritize their spend on live events. I myself am a huge fan. I can't wait to see Guns N' Roses in Chicago, where we're headquartered. So you've got these great tailwinds there. And our investment priorities continue to be able to drive value into both sides of our marketplace, being able to connect more buyers to sellers, investing in rewards, investing in an engagement platform. We talked also about our new free-to-play Game Center platform that allows users to come in, play simple games that allow them to win great prizes like free tickets. And in the first 60 days, we've had 70,000 unique players come in and use that product. So we continue to be really excited about the opportunity that's ahead of us, as well as potentially expanding into the international markets as we announced our acquisition of a great leading marketplace in Japan named Wavedash.
So a lot there. And I guess on the artist side, a lot of people have made jokes about this Taylor Swift economy, which defies any worries about where the overall economy is headed. But there is a lot of evidence that things have been cooling down or consumers are being a little bit more cautious with their cash going forward. So far, though, are you seeing, for maybe events that are taking us into next year or later this year, are you seeing anything that would suggest a slowdown in the events business?
Yeah, I think I think the phrase I've continued to use as I look at this landscape and this industry, we've seen a lot of resilient strength in the consumer as it pertains to live events. And I think that's largely because it's discretionary, certainly by definition, but the nature of what you're going to see, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. You're going to have FOMO. So I think when you look at whether you're going to, Taylor Swift, whether you're going to Guns N' Roses, these are great opportunities and great experiences. And I think consumers continue to prioritize that as they think about where they want to put their dollars.
Okay, Stan, good to see you. Thanks for the time today. Appreciate it.
You got it, John. Thank you.
Stan Chia is the CEO at Vivid Seats, joining us from Canaccord's 43rd Annual Growth Conference in Boston.
Well, shares of Cineplex are off their session lows, but still down, well, in fact, actually 5% at this point. The theater operator saw revenue surge last quarter thanks to the Super Mario Brothers film and teed up a big third quarter courtesy of Barbenheimer. But investors appear fixated on the risks posed by those dual strikes happening in Hollywood. Our Paige Ellis joins us now with more. It's really interesting to hear about the results from Cineplex Cineplex for this latest quarter, but then see the reaction.
It's hard to square those two. And so I reached out to a couple analysts who told me that they think really the fixation right now is on those two strikes in Hollywood. The actors, of course, are on strike, as well as the writers. And on a conference call with analysts this morning, the strikes were absolutely the main topic of conversation between the analysts and the executives. As you might expect, Ellis Jacob, the CEO of Cineplex, and his colleagues downplayed the impact of these two strikes, saying, and this is absolutely true, it's in everyone's best interest to resolve this quickly. But what we're hearing is that the studios and the union are quite far apart on a lot of key issues. So Ellis Jacob did say, if this gets resolved in the next few months, it's not going to have a really meaningful impact on us. The market seems to disagree with that assessment, or perhaps worried that these strikes are going to be really protracted. They also said, and I agree with this as well, that the strikes aren't going to impact consumer interest. The summer demonstrated very clearly that there's a huge interest among Canadians in watching certain films in the theater, especially now when inflation is biting, all of us, and this is a sort of an affordable luxury. But fears abound because this could impact release dates. In fact, it already has for at least one major film. So the Ghostbusters sequel was supposed to come out this year in December. It's been pushed out until March. And also, of course, there's the marketing. And we know how important marketing is with the Barbie movie. It's what generated all of the buzz. Actors aren't able to promote their own films right now, and that could have an impact on, consumer demand.
Yeah, the marketing of that was huge.
Enormous.
By the two lead actors there. And in terms of Barbie, the excitement around it and the marketing, all of that, the hype, it really has, broken records at the box office as well.
It's incredible. So Barbie's now a billionaire, pulling in $1 billion in global box office receipts. And what we heard from Cineplex, even though this last quarter that they reported on today doesn't capture July, they said that it's their second best month ever in terms of box office receipts. They also talked about the Super Mario Brothers movie that was released last quarter, and that's what helped drive sales. It was the biggest ever opening for an animated film. And Ellis Jacob, when he spoke to John Ehrlichman earlier today, said, he has a degree of frustration with how the market isn't focused on that. It's more focused on the strikes and the potential bad that could stem from that.
Yeah, it's always sort of what comes next, and so reliant, these movie theater chains, so reliant on just the production done by others. It doesn't really come down to them necessarily. Paige, thanks so much for this.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. That was our Paige Ellis reporting.